focus before our Creator. Eternal God, source of all wisdom and integrity, we rejoice in this opportunity to gather in your name and in the light of the very important mission and ministry of SSM Health. As we're about to begin this meeting, we do so blessed by your presence and aware that without you as the center of this meeting and also within ourselves, our work will be empty. Amen. So welcome everyone. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to participate in this very important project. Thus far, this is session 3 of 3, and I have to say in the prior 2, the level of engagement and the overall feedback and comments that we've gotten from this have been laudable. We're still getting emails even as of today about some of the things that might actually emanate from this as additional ideas. As we set this up, we look throughout the organization and ask ourselves, who were the physicians that are current or future leaders of our organization, either by virtue of the excellent patient care they provide or by virtue of appointment or just generally demonstration of their overall wisdom and opinions. Anyway, we have you here today because of that demonstrated commitment, and we feel like as leaders amongst your peers that you strive to deliver exemplary care and experiences for your patients. So we selected you to participate in this and really appreciate you being here. We have things structured such that we'll likely use the entire hour of your time, but again, do not want that to be restrictive in any way, shape, or form of any comments or questions that you might have as we go through this. So with that, I'll give the floor to Dr. Lewis for more introductory comments.
Well, thanks, Kersey, and thanks everyone for giving the gift of your time to this. We've been spending a lot of time with our foundation partners really evaluating what are the areas where we have opportunity to increase our philanthropic giving to support your patients and support your programs. If you've been with Saints for any length of time, and those that are invited to this call have, because you're our leaders, you understand the immense importance that that is to carrying forward our mission. And some of that has really turned up some exciting opportunities that we know we can do more with. And we need your help to do that more. And yet we want that to be A, not burdensome, B, not threatening or intimidating or embarrassing or challenging, and C, to do it in such a way that celebrates the great work that you do that creates incredible outcomes. And incredible outcomes generally come with immense gratitude on the part of patients and family. And so that gratitude is an opportunity to connect some dots. And when we connect the dots, oftentimes that turns into a relationship where the power of story transforms things. And the power of some of those stories also leads us to giving opportunities that heretofore we may not have seized upon. So with that, and looking at it from a patient perspective and through provider eyes, really just want to spend some time with our colleagues from the foundation and some others who are helping us to navigate this part of our future foundation and philanthropic journey together. And so with that, to introduce who's kind of going to guide us through these thoughts and the grateful patient opportunities, I'm going to give this to Sherry Rhodes. And Sherry, thank you. And I know you have some thoughts and can introduce our speaker and moderator for the rest of the journey.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin and Kersey, and thank each of you for taking, I hope, probably your lunchtime. I hope it's a break to join us today. We here at the foundation are very fortunate that we were chosen by the SSM Health system to be one of 3 locations that was able to take advantage of working with a consultant hired by the system to initiate a new Grateful Patient program. The program, as I think you heard from Kevin and Kirsty, really focuses on patient gratefulness. And the Global Consulting Group is the organization, the group that we have chosen to lead us through this. They are a consulting group that only works with healthcare organizations. I think they're currently working with 300 major institutions across the country. Jason Manning, who will be presenting today, has 15 years experience in fundraising like Kathleen and I. And prior to joining Global, he actually did what we're starting to do here. He initiated a Grateful Patient program that resulted in 7 gift officers, like we have 2, that really resulted in helping all service lines in the healthcare facility and bringing gifts of all different sizes to benefit patients and the needs of the hospital. So we are really feeling quite fortunate that we have a guide here in Jason. We also are working with a new system philanthropy team that is there to support our efforts. So you've got somewhere Travis Bradburn is on the line. So if you don't know him, that is who he is. So without that, I just want to say that, you know, the Global Group in this Grateful Patient program has been used highly successfully in other major healthcare institutions. They base this both on their past experiences and on research in patient gratefulness and the benefit that it has, not only for the institution, but most importantly for the patient and the patient's family. So with that, I want to thank you again for being here. And Jason, I'm going to let you go forward and present the information.
Sounds great. Thank you, Sherry, and Dr. Winfrey and Dr. Lewis. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present today to your colleagues here. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I appreciate your time as well. Also, before we kind of get into the presentation itself, just want to say thank you to Travis from SSM System Leadership, and of course Kathleen and Sherry for their wonderful work at St. Anthony Foundation. We've been working behind the scenes with all of them for the past year and a half now at this point, doing a number of different things. And this clinician engagement program that we'll talk about today, which supports Grateful Patient Philanthropy, is complementary to the good work that's being accomplished both at the system philanthropy level and also at the local level at St. Anthony and other foundations. So it's been a really wonderful opportunity for us at Global Group to work with really staunch professionals, and really looking forward to launching this program with you all today and providing you with an overview of some of the concepts that we feel are really important to a successful partnership, a successful program, and enabling patients and families to be able to say thank you for the extraordinary compassionate care that they receive on a regular basis. So I have a little bit of a PowerPoint here that's going to help us along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me 1 second here. So there it comes there. Sherry, I'll just have to give you a thumbs up that you see that. Does that look good? Okay, thank you so much. All right, so what we're going to talk to you all about today is building a culture of gratitude with clinician engagement in philanthropy. And it's about a 25-minute presentation that we'll talk about, and then we'll save some time at the end for questions and comments from the group, which would be greatly appreciated. But you'll hear me talking now and moving forward about clinicians are the key. And that is the absolute truth to the success of this program. Obviously, the foundation owns this program. It is something that they navigate in partnership with clinicians who want to work with them. But really, it's the relationships that clinicians end up establishing with their patients and families that is the important part of this. And then the foundation either enhancing the relationships that already exist with clinicians who they've worked with through the years, or developing new partnerships, new friendships, and new ways to engage clinicians to kind of expand the idea of allowing patients and families who desperately want to say thank you for the extraordinary care that they receive to allow them to say thank you. But it's those clinicians allowing the foundations to become a part of those relationships and have conversations which are really, really important in what we'll talk about today. So as Sherry had mentioned, I do work at this organization called Global Group. We are healthcare philanthropy consultants. We do a number of things, but really it revolves around one main thing. We work with foundations to partner with clinicians on the identification of grateful patients and families and finding meaningful ways for them to say thank you in a way that fits for them, in a way that makes sense. And we've been around, it would be 11 years in January, and we've had the pleasure and the privilege of working with several hundred hospitals and medical centers throughout the US, as well as thousands of clinicians, hundreds if not thousands of philanthropy professionals, healthcare professionals across the country. So really looking forward to kind of taking that, taking those best practices and overlaying it with the good work that's already being accomplished at St. Anthony Foundation moving forward. And then just one final note of thanks, obviously from the Global Group itself. Thank you again for being here today. We can only understand how challenging things are right now and have been over the past year and a half. And being a clinical practitioner anytime is challenging, but we have heard from your colleagues across the country that obviously this past year and a half has been particularly tough. So for you to take an hour today, spend some time with us, it's just wonderfully appreciated. And just know that moving forward, it's not like we expected. For those who want to partner, we're not expecting an hour from you every month. Certainly, we would find time, dates, and locations of shorter amounts of time to engage with you in this program, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's our goal and our hope today that we're able to demonstrate to you that philanthropy is more than just money in the healthcare environment. And it's more about just allowing grateful patients to express their gratitude. We believe that philanthropy is a part of the patient experience. It's a part of that patient's clinical experience, and not just a financial transaction, but an important component in the patient's and family's healing journey. And while we are not doctors or clinical practitioners ourselves, what we hear from clinicians throughout the country is that not only has it been a challenging past year and a half, but life's not easy right now for clinical practitioners, and many are feeling that they're burning the candle at both ends. Perhaps the current healthcare environment is presenting itself with a list of some of the things on the screen here today, and many others. Perhaps patients are presenting with conditions that are even more challenging than ever before. And we see that across all institutions, that clinicians in all roles are really feeling the pressure of the current healthcare environment. And how is it that we can react to that? As healthcare providers face heavy demands in their work and in the healthcare environment that are in constant change or reorganization, we believe that it's important for healthcare workers to consider taking care of themselves first so that they can then be more present to take care of their patients. And it's this increased capacity to be with the whole person through patient-centered care that invites the opportunity to deliver a safer, more compassionate, more joyful, and higher quality collaboration for those patients in your care. And with that, I just want to present you with like a scenario. Have you yourself ever thanked somebody for doing something that meant a lot to you, and maybe they brushed it off a little bit, right? Maybe the thanks embarrassed them in some way, or maybe they honestly didn't realize how much it meant to you, but their kind of rebuffing made you feel that your appreciation wasn't valued. It didn't mean that much to them. At the Global Group, we've come to learn that patients can feel the same way when they desperately want to thank you for helping them or saving their life or doing so for someone they love. And you might say something like, "Don't worry about it, we're just doing our job." And you maybe unintentionally dismiss it a little bit. So the purpose of the Grateful Patient Program that we want to talk about you today is how we can help you, how the foundation can help you, help your family say thank you in a way that fits for them, in a way that feels comfortable and meaningful for them. And therefore, by cultivating gratitude, compassion, and empathy in your own life as a clinical practitioner, you can then in turn increase the ability and the focus on the patient and family, their suffering human being, and practice that empathy towards them, allowing them to express this gratitude. So we understand that in the past, and it might be likely that through your own relationship with the hospital, that perhaps you might have been approached about philanthropy as just strictly a financial transaction. And as I mentioned, we have had the privilege of working with thousands of clinicians across the country, and there's typically a set of concerns that that we run into when we kind of roll out this program to clinicians. And there's a list of them on the screen here too, a little visual representation of them. And I'd like to kind of take a couple minutes to unpack them, just so you know that you might not be alone in these concerns, that other people are thinking these things as well. But we also at the Global Group and in our partnership with the foundation are also considering them, and we're also thinking about them. I want to make sure that you know that we are addressing them. So just kind of take a minute to unpack this a little bit. We do feel from some clinicians that they feel that this program is transactional in nature, right? And it's just about asking wealthy patients for money. And it's not about that at all, right? This is about gratitude, right? It's about exploring gratitude. It's about allowing people to say thank you. And it's about identifying those grateful people and finding meaningful ways for them to say thank you. Many people might also feel that this is unethical, right? It violates a patient's privacy. We take pains and make sure that this is a fully HIPAA compliant program. This is an opt-in, opt-out type of program. This is something that patients and families can choose to participate in if they find it comfortable for them, if it's something that they want to do. But we abide by the HIPAA final rule of 2013 in kind of all of the things that we do and recommend as part of this program. Simply because we don't want this to have a negative relationship or negative impact on anyone's relationship, right? We want this to have a positive and empowering, good effect on everyone's relationship who goes through this. We want this to be something that is empowering to that patient and clinician relationship. Also, just want to make sure that we directly address that, this isn't something extraordinarily extra that we'd ever ask clinicians to do, right? This is a foundation-led program, and one that's led 95% plus of the way by Kathleen and Sherry and their colleagues at the foundation, because we certainly don't want to place any undue expectations or unmanageable expectations on one's time on those clinicians who already have other important things that are going on a regular basis. And starting today and then moving forward, we want to make sure that we're providing our clinical partners with the education tools and resources to make sure that you feel comfortable in this, that you feel comfortable about the language, about recognizing gratitude, about how you can respond to that. And also, having the resources to make sure that this is something that is empowering and comfortable for you. And then finally, that this is for those patients and families who perhaps choose to become donors, choose to share their philanthropy, that this is what we call a donor-centric program, and that the dollars that one might look to donate, would support institutional priorities and programs based on that specific donor's interest. And it's really just to drive the point home, make sure that you understand what this is by starting with what it's not, right? This is never about clinicians asking their patients for money, right? We know that this is not, something that's ethically appropriate, not something that you would want to do, not something you're comfortable doing, something you're trained to do. So it would never be about any clinician asking their patients for money. It's also not about inequitable quality of care for some patients and not others, right? It's not a concierge program. There's no quid pro quo here. There's not a special medicine cabinet in the back of the room for those patients who choose to become grateful or choose to become donors, and others who do not. And again, it's never about identifying wealthy families, right? We want this to be about identifying those grateful patients, those grateful families who want to express their gratitude. Because this really is all about the importance of gratitude and how it plays a role in patients' life, and by extensions, their physicians and clinicians' professional life. So, in the past, when hospitals and medical centers would get into the business of fundraising and philanthropy, what they would typically do is start with the wealthy people, right? So have a conversation like, all right, who are the wealthy people in our community and how do we get access to them? And while we never want to forget about those wealthy patrons, right, those people who have been enormously generous to the hospital through the foundation over the years, by just starting with the wealthy people, this can be very limiting in nature, in that there's only so many wealthy people in every community in the United States. And other institutions who have philanthropic arms also know who those people are, right? And they're trying to get their case for support in front of those wealthy individuals and trying to convince them that their cause is greater than anyone else's cause. So what we want to do is we want to explore, how do we throw the net wider, right? How do we get more people involved? How do we get more people interested in perhaps supporting the hospital? And we believe that you do that by not by starting with the wealthy people, but by starting with the grateful people, right? And in a healthcare environment, that would mean starting with those individuals who have had an experience at the hospital, who are now strategically aligned to the hospital because of that relationship they have with their physician or the clinician, and that they want to say thank you. And how do we get access to those people? We believe you do it by the foundation finding clinicians who will be willing to partner with them on the identification and introduction of those patients and families, right? Kind of allowing the foundation to be part of these conversations on an ongoing basis. And what this does is it ultimately establishes what we call a culture of gratitude. And a culture of gratitude is different than what one might call a culture of philanthropy, right? So many hospitals and medical centers, many times led by the foundation, would try to establish what's called a culture of philanthropy. And many times it would fail. And the reason why it would fail is because of what the word philanthropy has come to be known synonymously to us, right? In that, as hard as we try to kind of talk about that Greek word of phila and the love of mankind and all that stuff, when people hear the word philanthropy, pretty typically their mind goes to money, right? And not everyone wants to or can participate in a culture of philanthropy. So what we try to do is talk about the establishment of a culture of gratitude. And a culture of gratitude at a hospital or medical center means that everybody, regardless of their role, plays a part in helping to deliver that compassionate and exceptional patient experience. So everyone from, the person who cleans the floors, right, to working in the cafeteria, perhaps they work behind the scenes in information technology, all clinical and non-clinical staff, up to the executive suite of the institution, everybody plays a role in helping to deliver that patient experience. And if we can get people behind that, it's much more inclusive in nature, right? They can kind of have a better understanding of what that might mean and how they can participate through their regular role. And what's wonderful about that, about the establishment of a culture of gratitude, is that gratitude is the enabling behavior behind philanthropy, right? Meaning that gratitude drives one's desire to give back in a way that fits for them, whereas philanthropy is one form of giving back in the form of money. So if we can focus on gratitude, if we can kind of turn the cruise ship, so to speak, and kind of enable that culture of gratitude at the institution, ultimately we're going to find different avenues for which people choose to give back. One of which ultimately would be philanthropy if they choose to do so. So this is our paradigm, and our paradigm is the summary of our white paper. The white paper is the science and medicine behind the work that we do at the Global Group and in partnership with our clients. And I know Sherry and Kathleen will pass this white paper along to all the participants in these calls over the last couple of days after the fact. It's about a 10 or 15-minute read. It's based on 27 scientific and medical studies which prove this paradigm here, which go into our white paper. So I just want to kind of take a moment to unpack it a little bit. So we believe that those clinicians who practice mindfulness, practice self-compassion, self-empathy, are then more present to then recognize that in others, right, in their patients and their families, and provide them with extraordinary care, compassionate care that manifests itself in gratitude. And then for those patients and families who are grateful, they're looking for ways to give back, right? They're searching for an appropriate way to let that clinician know that they're grateful, to square that relationship a little bit with them. Many times they're desperate to do so. And there's many different ways they can give back, right? It's like cookie trays and candy trays show up at nurses' stations during the holiday times, right? It's people who want to express that gratitude but might not know how to. And then those people who are allowed to give back, it creates happiness in them as individuals. So think about this as from a real life example. As we approach the holiday time now, you might be out shopping for a gift for someone in your life, and you're excited to go out and shop and wrap the gift lovingly and give them that gift. Think about the excitement, the happiness, the joy that is fulfilled within you as the gift giver. it might be even more than the person who receives that gift that you're giving it to. Think about the happiness that you, an anticipation of giving that person a gift, how that makes you feel. And then happy people are healthier people, right? They go to their doctor's appointments, they exercise, they eat right, they take their medication because they want to lead healthier lives because of the happiness and joy that's inside of them. And round and round this paradigm goes, and it always begins and ends with the fact that someone was delivered an exceptional, compassionate patient experience that started the rest of the circle going forward. So if you have a few moments over the next few days or so to kind of peruse that white paper, I would certainly encourage it. I think that you would enjoy learning a little bit more about the research beyond this. So it's our hope that you may have a better understanding of why gratitude is important to you as clinicians, but also how philanthropy in the past might have been viewed maybe as transactional to maybe administrators in clinical relationships. And because the foundation is involved in this, you might also be surmising that we're just looking to raise money from this program. And yes, of course, we are hopeful that some families will want to make that decision at some point. But I want to stress that, again, this program is never about you asking your patients for money. The staff from the foundation will do that if they feel it's appropriate, if that turns out to be one of the ways in which that patient wants to express their gratitude. But what we really want to do is kind of make a transition to why philanthropy is important to grateful patients and families, because for them, it's not transactional in nature at all. But because when patients and families think about philanthropy and they think about gratitude, for them, it's transformational, right? It's about taking control of what might be otherwise an uncontrollable health situation for them. And it's really about the idea of the recognition and the expression of gratitude and how it's so meaningful. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go into that a little bit for a few minutes and then conclude about how clinicians might be willing to engage with the foundation on the referral of patients and families in their expressed gratitude. Because we know that the number one reason why people choose to give back is because they're grateful. And they're not grateful to the hospital building or the medication or the equipment. They're grateful to the people, the doctors, the nurses, the lab technician, all those other clinicians who are providing them with that humanistic approach to medicine. And they want to provide, they want to say thank you person to person and return it in that humanistic way. People also might want to give back to make an impact, right? This has certainly been evident over the past year and a half during the pandemic, when this idea and this concept of a grateful community has manifested itself. And the grateful community is a little bit different from a grateful patient in that, a member of the grateful community might not necessarily have had their own personal patient experience, but they see the impact that healthcare workers, healthcare heroes have on the people they live and work with in their community. And they want to give back in recognition of that. They also might want to give back to maintain relationships, right? This is certainly evident in an inpatient experience. So think about someone who enters as an inpatient into the hospital. Clinically, they might not know what the outcome is going to be, right? They might not know, what might happen to them. And during this really difficult time, this really trying time, all these people are coming into their life, and they're providing them with care at a time that might be really difficult for them. When they are discharged, when they go home, they might not be ready to give up those relationships. So by giving back, they're able to maintain these relationships in some way. And then even in the worst of outcomes, where a patient passes away, that grateful family might want to bring closure, find meaning, or create legacy for that patient who, even if they passed away, was still provided with an extraordinary compassionate care experience. So with that, I would like to show you a short video. This is a grateful family, and they're going to talk to us for about 90 seconds about the reason why they chose to give back.
Well, what motivates us to want to give is the staff here, the people, the good feeling that we get from the people once we've given, and the biggest motivation came from the doctors and the nurses here with the fantastic treatment that not only her mom and my wife got, it was a family, and it was great. I mean, every time I turned around, somebody was helping me do something. And, whatever it was, they were always there.
They really made us feel like a family.
They made us feel like a family, and they made us want to give. That's the way the doctors are here. But if I could just tell one little story about one of the nurses. When my wife passed away and we were waiting for her to pass, they'd taken all the life support off. She came down to the emergency room on her day off. And she says, get your stuff together, we're going home. And I said, what do you mean we're going home? She took us back up to 4-H where Nina had spent a lot of her time, cleaned her up, and all the nurses that were on duty that day came by and kissed her goodbye. And if that doesn't inspire you to give, I don't know what does.
So, very, very, very powerful video. We always like to show this video to kind of help us to kind of, understand the motivation behind grateful patients and families. But just a couple of points on John and Jennifer here. These are the individuals that are expressing gratitude that the foundation would like to have a conversation with, right? And they're not able to really locate who these people might be unless the foundation can establish relationships with physicians and clinicians in order to be introduced to them. And the reason why we want to have the conversation with them is obviously they're very grateful. They want to give back in some way. They want to honor the nurse who came in on her day off to help say goodbye to Nina. But a couple of other points is these don't look like millionaire, billionaire people to me, right? We don't know how they chose to give back, right? They might have thrown a pizza party for the nurses on 4-H, or they might have named a new cancer wing, right? And we don't know. And in a culture of gratitude, one's pizza party is equal to one's $1 million gift, depending upon the person who's giving it. But in order for the foundation to be able to have conversations with families like this, it's that development of these clinical relationships for them to trust the foundation to be able to kind of enter these conversations and explore these people's gratitude and how they might want to choose to give back. So there was a study that concluded that patients who have had a good experience want to express gratitude, not just based on clinical outcomes, but also about how caregivers communicated with them and also treated them during the healthcare experience. And then not only is it just saying thank you, but having it received correctly to be able to kind of complete that circle of saying thank you, those patients and families were also happier with their healthcare experience. So going beyond the idea of philanthropy, beyond the idea of gratitude, and getting into the realm of patient satisfaction, really, really important part of gratitude that also plays a role in this. And there are many ways that patients and families are looking to say thank you, right? Here's a list of them on your screen right here, right? These kind of nonverbal expressions of gratitude. And I would bet that the physicians and clinicians on this call today, you've seen things like this, right? These are the ways that people are desperately looking to be able to kind of express their gratitude to you. They're really searching for those ways that would really make sense. And the foundation wants to be able to help you facilitate these expressions of gratitude in an easy and quick way, because we know how busy you are already. So if we can be, the foundation can be that repository of gratitude, whereas someone is saying thank you, you're comfortable and confident in passing that name along to the foundation and letting them explore it from there. That's how we want to help you to facilitate these grateful patients and families. So when we talk about the idea of clinicians kind of receiving gratitude, what we want to talk about is, this is not about all the patients that you have. This is about the right patients at the right time. It's about those patients who might perhaps be, overtly expressing gratitude to you. And how do we react? How do we react to that as clinicians? So if someone were to say something like, doctor, thank you so much for all you've done for me and my family. How can I ever say thank you? How can I ever repay you? Having worked with thousands of clinicians across the country, we've typically found that for the most part, clinicians are a little bit uncomfortable with gratitude in that they might not necessarily know what to do with it. So when someone's expressing gratitude, they might say something like, oh gosh, don't worry about saying thank you. We're just doing our job. Or let's just concentrate on getting your mom better. Don't worry about that. And what that can do in an unintentional way, of course, because you as a clinician might just not want to place another undue burden on somebody who's already going through a tough time to now have to be grateful to you. But what it can do is it can dismiss that person's gratitude, and it can say, it can say that your gratitude's not important to me. So what we want to do in working with the foundation is to supply you with the opportunity and a partner in the foundation for you to be able to accept that gratitude in some way, and then have a partner in the foundation where you can refer it to. So if someone says something very similar to you, you can respond either in the moment or, a very popular way that still exists is sending a letter that would be facilitated by the foundation to those patients and families after the fact, that would say or read like, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and a privilege taking care of you. We so appreciate you trusting us with your healthcare. For those patients and families like yourselves who are grateful, I have a partner who I work with in our foundation in Sherry Rhodes. Sherry's an extension of our team. She's instrumental to the success of our hospital, and Sherry helps my patients say thank you. Can I have her give you a call? Right. And it's that little turn of the knob, right? It's that little, just kind of a quick little change in the response to gratitude that could be the absolute game changer in just the number of patients and families that Sherry and Kathleen are able to have conversations with. Because that introduction, it frankly legitimizes the foundation, right? It positions them as your partner in gratitude. And it relieves clinicians of the burden of having to kind of navigate that, and it puts it over on the foundation as what we would kind of call the repository of gratitude, and allow them to take that from there. So these are really the three simple I's of the program, and where we're looking for clinical partners to work with the foundation is, one is, can we work with you in partnership to identify the 1 or 2 patients or families a month who are expressing that overt gratitude, right? This isn't, again, not about every patient and family. It's about maybe 1 or 2 a month, right? They're overtly expressing gratitude. You have enough of a relationship with them where, introducing the idea of talking to the foundation makes sense. It's comfortable. It's not strange. It's not awkward. And then the third is that, that patient, and by extension, their family, are in the right spot clinically to be able to be having this conversation with the foundation, right? It makes sense as far as timing is concerned. And then coming up with a way that you'd be comfortable with introducing these patients to the foundation, and then the foundation would take it from there. And then finally, it's just remaining involved in the philanthropic process in a way that's comfortable for you, but also meaningful for your patients, right? So it's not asking your patients for money. It's not being in the room when that might be going down. But, if there's a certain project that's going on, if you have a vision that could use help philanthropically, perhaps talking a little bit about, the impact that support might have with patients and families can go a long way, and your involvement would be, really key to the success. So this is just kind of a quick process map here as far as how it works. Now, obviously, the clinician cares for the patients. They listen for that gratitude. What we would like to recommend is that, a quick 10 or 15-minute monthly get together with your partner in the foundation, to discuss these few names, to discuss other projects, things that are going on. Certainly doesn't have to happen at your desk, of course. This could be over the phone. It could be, in a virtual environment, at a time, date, and location of your convenience, of course, to kind of have this 10 or 15-minute pop in with you. And then the introductions would be made, right? And those could be in person or in a letter or an email facilitated by the foundation. And then the foundation officer would follow up from that. They'd have an initial conversation with that grateful patient. And pretty typically what happens in that is, talk to them. I understand you're grateful. I would love to learn a little bit more about your grateful patient experience. Tell me a little bit about what happened. And then also talk a little bit about things that are happening at the hospital. Here are some projects that are going on. Here's some exciting things that the physician who you love so much is doing. Love to share those with you. And then finally, I understand that you're grateful and that you're thinking about saying thank you, expressing this gratitude. Have you thought about how you might want to do it? And then we allow the patient, that family, to kind of bring us down the path that fits for them in order to say thank you. That might be a quick thank you note. Can you make sure that my doctor gets this thank you note? I want to make sure that he knows how much he meant to me. Perhaps they, when the time is appropriate, they would volunteer their time at the hospital. Perhaps they have a compelling story that marketing communication would like to grab, right? And they would like to post on social media or make their next television commercial or something like that out of it. But what this program is also designed to do is to find individuals who are in your community who are strategically aligned to the hospital because they've had that wonderful patient experience, who are philanthropic in nature themselves, right? So they give to their alma mater, they give to their local Boys and Girls Club, they give to other charities that are important to them, who had no idea that the hospital needed anything, and that they could say thank you to their doctor by supporting a project or something that was important to future patients and families that might need help. And that they could say thank you with their personal philanthropy. So it's a little bit of what we call donor education that goes on in this process as well. They may think that the hospital has everything that they need, and that philanthropy makes no difference. And we know that the exact opposite is true. So to be able to have these conversations with people and allow them to lead us down the path of how they want to say thank you is the next step in the process. And if they want to share their personal philanthropy, sharing Kathleen would follow the rest of this process map here and allow them to express their gratitude and support of a project that is meaningful to them. So one last video here, and then a couple slides to wrap up, and I'll pass it back over to Sherry. This is Dr. Aldata, who's a clinician champion himself, and he will talk to us a little about the reasons why he participates in the program.
And probably the most important lesson that I've learned is that philanthropy is not just a fiscal process that's simply dollars and cents that changes hands and lets buildings be built or facilities be improved, but it's actually an integral part of the healing process, of the caregiving process. I've come to learn that patients and families who want to give should never be dismissed. And the answer that, oh, don't worry, this is just my job, is very dismissive to people and actually off-putting in a way that's hurtful. That's somewhat counterintuitive. We might be thinking that we're relieving the patients of the burden of having to thank us, but in fact, their wanting to thank us is a way of getting better.
So a few next steps in the program itself is, can the foundation reach out to you and kind of have a quick follow-up meeting to talk a little bit about the process, right? And how you might be comfortable participating to identify, introduce, and be involved in the philanthropic endeavors. Also, are there members of your team who we can engage, right? To educate and engage them in the process as well, to help you identify patients and families who are saying thank you. And then really coming up with, perhaps an ongoing or regular conversation with the foundation to review and identify these grateful patients, because that's really where we get some momentum in the program itself. And we do all these things around a few promises. One is we never ask you to do anything that you're not comfortable with, and that no action would be taken under a referred patient under your care without your knowledge, right? And the foundation would do this by effectively and efficiently communicating with you about the follow-up plan for each referral. So, if the referral happened today, and the foundation would reach out to them and kind of loop back to you, say, hey, doctors, want to let you know, I'm reaching out to Mrs. Smith. We're going to have a cup of coffee. Something might have happened clinically in that time frame. That's, again, no business of other than yours or Mrs. Smith's. But you'll be able to kind of put a stop to that, right? To say, you know what, let's hold on Mrs. Smith right now. Let's have a conversation with her in a few months. And what that does is it protects you, it protects your relationship with that patient, and it also makes sure that the foundation is reaching out to these patients at the time that's clinically appropriate for them. And then finally, the foundation would partner with you to raise funds that support your programs or other organizational priorities based on donor interest. So that is the conclusion of my remarks for today. Sherry, I'd like to kind of pass it back over to you to kind of facilitate any questions or answers or provide any final comments.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason. And I can just say from personal experience here at St. Anthony that the grateful patients who have connected with the foundation, they do it because it makes them feel better. It feeds their soul. It creates a legacy for their loved one. It makes them happy, and it helps them through that healing process. And I'll just say that Sean Morrison Gray one time called me from the Cancer Institute and said, we have a patient's family here that would like to do something for Dr. Bowen and the rest of the staff. Could you call her? And so I did. And what that resulted in was Peggy Harris, her 2 daughters. She now has 3 grandchildren, all with her first name beginning with C. But for 5 years, they have celebrated her husband Sam's birthday and death here at St. Anthony by bringing Sam's favorite things. It was knee-high grape soda, it was pizza, and they would bring blankets they had put together and would deliver them to the patients on the 9th floor patient floor. And, you know, Peggy was not someone who was what I would call one of those wealthy people, but she and her family all were very committed that they make a donation every year in Sam's honor. And they became the spokespersons for our Cancer Institute campaign, which we ultimately raised $4.8 million. To this day, Peggy and I stay in conversation. She was really quite disappointed that this year and last year, because of COVID, they could not come and hug Dr. Bowen and hug the staff and continue that legacy of Sam. So this is what makes the program so special. It's that ability for your patients, their families, to continue that relationship with people who have made their life better. And so we are very grateful that you listened in, participated in this part of the program. We hope that you would allow us to follow up with you, either Kathleen or I, to talk about, would you be willing to work with us on trying to find more patients like Peggy Harris? We do have little special, I'm trying to think of what they call business cards that can be given to patients, and we have a brochure. So we have materials that can be supportive of this. We want to do this in a way that is comfortable for you. And that's, you know, what I think that we are hoping for, that we'll have more instances of people who will find a way to get through their own healing and to make their hearts lighter by a relationship with you. So what questions might any of you have that either I or Kathleen or Jason or Kirsty, Kevin could answer?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you guys. I do think that was an excellent presentation, and I do think the concept of being a gracious receiver, especially in the professional medicine world, is very much not taught and undervalued. And I think, you know, I can recall multiple instances on a monthly basis where I think most of us probably do say, you know, please, you know, it was a pleasure taking care of you. I'm just glad you're feeling better. And, you know, the conversation definitely ends there. And it's quite awkward if the patient is wanting to continue to bring gifts or food or monetary value, whatever it is, in form of gift cards. So I think it's a great program that gives an avenue to create a legacy. And I think that as a caretaker of someone who I love deeply undergoing recent medical care, I appreciate that empowerment to be able to give back, to create a legacy. So I think this is very important, and I would be very happy to have you guys follow up. I think a suggestion I had was perhaps offering the brochures in the waiting area and to the staff. Oftentimes my medical assistant quite often gets asked, you know, what can I do? Or, you know, how to, I guess, give back. So it would be very nice to have that information and give it to the staff as well. And just a funny thing, I actually do know Dr. Aldata at Washington Hospital Center, because I did my training at Georgetown. So I remember him working with him as a resident. So he's a great guy.
Oh, that's amazing. A lot of people know him. Yeah.
Appreciate the suggestions. Those are great. Anyone else? Okay. All right, well, I know Kathleen and I will be reaching out. We do have, quote, the white paper that Jason referred to that gives more of the information based in a knowledge base and experience and all that can give some reinforcement and additional information. And then we'll be trying to reach out to you and see if we might meet with you briefly and see what you think about, like with Dr. Singhal, how we can move forward in a comfortable way with you to see how this works. So anything that you want to add? That
No, I just look forward to working with you all. And thank you so much for giving your time to this.
all right, so Kirsty and Kevin, I'm handing it back to you.
So I'd like to thank all of you for engaging in this with us. This has been very enlightening for me as well when I think about this in the context of my doctor-patient relationships through the years. The relationship with the foundation cannot be overlooked in this as well. The foundation has done lots of things in the interest of us realizing the best possible patient outcomes. The Cancer Center is a good example, but also the Sisters Fund and the things that we can do to get people literally through the day. The foundation has been a very important part of that. And I just remind all of you that patients want to be a part of this. They want to be a part of our success as a healthcare delivery system and as practitioners. And they also do these things because they want us there for them in the future. And this, to me, has been very enlightening to understand the very importance of letting them finish out their expressions of gratitude. So I like this idea. That was one of the reasons why I agreed to be a sponsor along with Dr. Lewis. So with that, I'll give the floor to Dr. Lewis for any closing comments.
Thanks, Kirsty. I really share your sentiments in regard to that, and thinking on past experience in direct clinical care. Gosh, that feels like forever ago, and it wasn't, but these types of things were so helpful to me in that situation. And so I was eager to participate in this, as Kirsty said, to help us have more formal structures in place to support you. And so I echo the comments of thanks. Grateful. This is a grateful patient program, so gratitude abounds in these conversations. But I do have gratitude for each of you. I have gratitude for the time you've given. Time is short, especially this time of year. And I have gratitude for the feedback you give in the past, in the moment, and future feedback that you give as you help us improve as a ministry and help our foundation succeed, which turns back to helping us succeed in patient care. And so with that note, we'll move forward. We would love to have you involved. It will not be overbearing. That's our commitment. We really do want to just create avenues of feedback and connectivity and ability to harness the power of a program like this and have it be ongoing in a very valuable way for all of the benefit of our service lines. So thank you again. Hope the
Okay.
afternoon is great.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you all. All right,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Yes.